In my experience, Sonic.EXE games can fall under 3 categories. Not much gameplay and all visuals like back in the olden days, Friday Night Funkin', and way too difficult. The game we're going to be talking about falls under the last category, that game being Sonic.EXE Spirits of Hell. By popular demand of the people, I'm going to finally talk about it. And I'm convinced my own audience hates me because what is this? Now, before I start bashing on this game, I will say that I don't think the game is overall bad. There's a lot of good to come from this game, like custom sprites I think look amazing, great animation, unique concepts, and most importantly, actual gameplay. At the time this game released, Sonic.exe games were trying to figure out what they wanted to be, and while the gameplay made me want to summon my persona like they did in Persona 3, if you know you know, I really like the attempt here and what it's done for the community. This game has multiple endings, each depending on what you do and, well, what you can do. That's right, you actually get to save them and it be the canonical outcome of what happens should you get the right ending. In this video, we're going to be talking about each of the endings you can get in this game, the gameplay, and I'm going to be complaining a lot. Get ready as we talk about the game that still gives me nightmares, and not for the reason you think. So, where exactly does this hell begin? We first see the title screen that features a toggle that has voice acting, which I thought at first was pretty interesting, and you know it's gonna be good.
Like the other EX.
Hitting start game gives us a menu that allows us to choose how many lives we want. If you're like me, the first question you had was, does the difficulty affect the ending? Thankfully, no. Otherwise, I wouldn't be making this video. We start off as Sonic this time around, and not Tails. You can collect a few additional extra lives in this area if you look around, but you don't play as Sonic for long. His sprites here do look amazing, and that's a theme I think carries throughout the whole game. I'm not sure if these are custom or not, as I think I've seen them before, but I'm not entirely sure. Regardless, it blends in with the world pretty well, and it's visually appealing. Continuing forward, we get a call from Tails, which is something I want to point out. The voice acting isn't horrible. I do think there are some moments that make me laugh,
Like the other EX.
but I think the voices suit the characters well enough. The fact that this game even has voice acting shows us that this was a true passion project. And you know what? I never liked the overly demonic voices for the spooky hedgehog, so this Sonic.exe sounds a little silly, but in my opinion, is a little easier to understand vocally without a lot of the effects. Though he does get pretty quiet at times. I don't know if that was like a volume thing for me, but there are cutscenes that play along with the voice acting, which for the time was pretty cool to see. The first one basically shows that Sonic got possessed by something, and Tails wants to go check on him, thusly taking us to the classic Sonic.exe screen where we see our lineup of victims we can play as. As per usual, the other two are locked and Tails is the first one you can pick, but it's here you can also get an explanation of how the game works. And some things to note. Here we see a list of rings that do different things. During this playthrough, each character will be given a choice, and it's up to you to pick the right one, and that lets them live. Choosing wrong kills them instantly unless you have the green ring, stopping that bad decision entirely. The black ring allows for the character's solo ending. So let's say you manage to survive the difficult Tails level and he's the only survivor left. There's a certain part near the end where the black ring activates and stops you from dying. So instead of Tails getting killed in the most disrespectful way possible, might I add, he doesn't, because the black ring stops that from happening. And you're on your way to the next part. We'll talk about the specifics later, but I want to discuss all the characters' solo endings first and what happens. So that being said, back to Tails. If you're an EXE fan, you'll notice this looks pretty familiar. As we keep walking, we see a dead animal show up like in the classic Sonic.exe games, and hey, there's a green ring here. And look, Sonic.exe is poking his head out. Come here, pal. I hate this f***ing game. Reaching the end of the level, Tails approaches Sonic, though something isn't right here. The screen slowly gets covered with static as Tails approaches, but as he reaches him, Sonic just casually turns around, subverting your expectations. It seems he's done something truly terrible. He got into the strawberry jam again and didn't share. You monster. I'll never forgive you. Though it is here we're presented with a choice. Now, people were begging me to go with him and tried to convince me it was the right choice. And if you hate Tails, this is the right choice. But if you are a sane Sonic enjoyer, like I am, you fly away. Though I question what the point of that was, because he just catches up to you anyway. Instead of dying, you get teleported. It's here we're introduced to actual gameplay. Kind of. I'm actually doing a post-recording of this because I actually forgot about this specific part, and I actually hated this. I mean, you really don't do very much, aside from jump at the right time when Sonic.EXE is chasing after you. The only problem is that there's an invisible wall here, and if you fall, you lose this character right away. The timing is really weird on this jump. I don't know if this is just a me problem, but it definitely caused me a few problems. But once you make it, for once in a Sonic.exe game, we play actual hide and seek, and it sucks. First off, you can jump while Sonic.exe is talking, and he will kill you. Admittedly, I was trying to skip his dialogue for this cutscene and ended up jumping, which is how I found this out. But still, in this section of the game, there are clones of a seller all throughout the level. Oh yeah, I should probably mention that a seller is the name of the Sonic.exe. I'll have to explain his lore another day, if I get around to it. But just know there's a common misconception. I don't believe a seller is a part of the Nightmare universe, or even a spin-off. I think the creator was friends with the creator of Assedior, and was inspired from Nightmare Beginnings, which I've covered on my channel if you guys are interested. So I'll be referring to him as a seller for the rest of this video. I'm probably saying that wrong, and I'm making people mad. That's okay. Back to hell. This level is trial and error, and that's kind of a theme for the rest of this game. I also can't help but to feel like luck is involved in some way. There's a button you have to find in order to progress, but the game gives you no indication where that might be, or if there was a button that you have to press at all. And nothing about this level is straightforward. I understand exploring and seeing all of the level design, but when the game has an instant kill mechanic, it really seems unforgiving. The luck portion came in for me as I had developed a strategy. Upon spawning in, I would fly up and fly atop the map until I reached a rocket that would send me near the button. However, in doing so, if I didn't time this right, a seller would be there as soon as I landed and I would just instantly die. No chance of escaping because I'm in free fall, and that's one life gone. You could argue I can mix up my timing, and that's what I did. But even then, I can't see what's ahead of me from a safe distance, so I'm still just guessing. And after all the trial and error that was hide and seek, the next part isn't any better. We're thrown into a chase scene where if you get caught, you have to go through the same process all over again. Personally, I think a checkpoint here would have been nice, but I guess we can't have nice things, even though it does it later in the game, but that's fine. This chase sequence felt unforgiving as well. You have to time your jumps and fly at the exact right time. Time your movements precisely. The dev thought it'd be cute to add springs everywhere to add to the player experience. It's not cute, okay? It's actual torture. I found myself flying too high at times, resulting in instant death, or not flying at the right time and just dying for it. But I will say this, once you get a feel for it and you practice enough times, you will get it. And when you do, it feels great. Congrats, you cleared the level with Tails. Now, Tails is put on pause for a moment after completing this as you try to save the others from their potential demise. So, next up is Knuckles. He got a message from Tails saying that it's urgent and they should meet up, but he decides to take a quick detour at the now very red scrap brain zone. The first portion is, wait a minute, what is that? Okay, certainly I'm seeing something wrong here because this is how many lives I had when I finished the level with Tails, and they would make you continue off the lives of the previous character, right? They wouldn't do that. They did. And if you die with the previous character, you spawn in with one life as the next character. This game was the reason my parents divorced. To this game's credit, there is a life you can collect as Knuckles at the beginning here, but I mean, come on, man. If this is your first time playing through it, you just lost. I mean, that's it. Knuckles' stage is called It's Just Illusion, and boy, what a lie that is. The pain I'm feeling is very real. There are rings you have to grab in order for these pillars to disappear so you can progress. Now, I'm not entirely sure, but I think the ring timers are random. I found myself picking up a red ring, and every once in a while, it just kind of went away right after I had picked it up. Other times, I was hoping it would go away, but it felt like it lasted forever, causing me to die because I couldn't escape the executable file. I found a path that kind of worked best for me, and with enough practice, and maybe a little bit of luck, I was able to make it to the end. But this wouldn't be the last time we see luck used, as it's here we're presented with a choice. We can either pick the red or green button, and this is a complete 50-50. Assuming it's your first time playing through this level, you have no idea where the green ring was, and if you choose wrong here, Knuckles dies instantly, and that is one character down. Now, if the game didn't add the green ring, I'd have to be more harsh on it, but it does encourage you to practice and explore. I do think this is still like a little bit harsh, but it's not completely unfair. If you choose correctly, you get to move on, and that's Knuckles saved. That means there's only one person left, and I hate this fucking section with the burning fucking passion, and can somebody please explain to me why this happens? Sorry, I had to get that out of my system. This section isn't even the hardest Eggman level, but is still a core memory for me now. Let's back it up a little bit. Sonic has broken into the base, and Eggman has to retreat. With him is Metal Sonic and Scratch and Grounder? Wait a minute, he's trying to run away, and Scratch and Grounder are here. He's trying to... Eggman takes a broken jetpack with him. Bit of an odd choice, Egghead, but I get it. Times are dire, and sometimes all you have is a broken jetpack. This does introduce us to his mechanic. By holding X, you can dash forward and run up walls. By holding X and up at the same time, you send yourself straight up. Now, this was a pretty unique idea, and I do really appreciate it. But man, can timing this thing be really weird. Pressing something too late or too early will just send you in a direction, and you can either lose your progress or die for it. This is unfortunate because Robotnik's levels tend to have a lot of urgency to them, and if you're a skill issue, like me, you're going to struggle quite a lot. You'll reach a point where there's a timer that starts to count down after you start moving, and you will likely think you're supposed to go down a hole, but this is just here to mess with you. I didn't realize there was a platform above me I was supposed to go to, and there was no indicator that there was anything above me anyways. And you're on a time limit, so you not realizing this cost you a character. Once the timer hits 0, you don't even die right away, but once you reach the end, .executable file decides he's done watching the peanut gallery and ends you. This isn't one life gone, it's the character gone. Now, from a narrative standpoint, this makes sense. Sonic.EXE has found Robotnik and kills him. It also plays into the idea that Sonic.EXE is ruthless and is rigging the game against you. At least it really feels like that as the player. It still kind of sucks from a gameplay perspective, but I don't think I could make a video on something if I didn't enjoy it at least a little bit. That being said, after making it to the end before the timer hits 0, you're taken to Robotnik's choice. This one is actually pretty obvious. Basically, you have to send either Scratch and Grounder or Metal Sonic to go hold off a cellar. So you keep one with you to protect you. So obviously, you send Metal Sonic to take a cellar out and keep Scratch and Grounder as a backup because these guys can. Just kidding. These guys are so incompetent. I think I'd rather take Orbot and Cubot. The right choice is to pick... And he all over the place while Eggman escapes. Eggman doesn't get very far before Mr. I'm Not Like Other EXEs catches up and destroys the elevator, sending us down into madness. Now, any normal human would crack from this fall, but I'm gonna assume Eggman used his jetpack at a good time to land safely. Though I wish he wouldn't have, because at least then I wouldn't have to play this section of the game. Every complaint before this point may have been a skill issue, but this level design combined with Eggman's jetpack, I'm about to disturb the peace, because what the fuck is this? Down at the bottom left, there's a difficulty rating, which doesn't actually mean anything until you reach a certain part of the level. Don't let this fool you. You still have to time your jumps, memorize the layout, and as you progress, easy turns to medium, and when that happens, an instant death wall begins to slowly make its way towards you as to try and figure out where the fuck to go and not mistime your jumps, while also looking out for spikes and managing your shield time. I feel like I should mention this, and it's probably gonna upset some people here, but I have to do it. I have to. I used the level select screen, and I used it a lot. My game crashed at certain moments, or would bug out, and I'll be damned if I do Knuckles and Tails portion again. And there isn't checkpoints or saves, so you would just have to start at the beginning. Admittedly, this saved me so much time, and without it, I wouldn't get this video out until next month. So just know that I jumped around a lot to get footage in every ending for this game, especially for the next part of Eggman's level. I will say, this section starts you off with the first checkpoint in this game, and that was nice. But this part is so unforgiving, I almost cried like a little baby, knowing I'd spend the rest of my life trying to beat it. Accelerator chases you through the level while platforms fall behind you. You cannot mistime your jumps, you have to time your shield. It moves so fast, the jumps you have to make and the guesses that you have to take is just insane. If you're persistent enough and crazy, you will get through it. And that's the first section of the game complete. Depending on who's alive, they will find themselves at the Master Emerald. Each character has a level made for their abilities, and get this, there is no harm here. And you know what? The platforming was pretty fun. I'm gonna go over all the solo endings first, then the duo endings, then the true ending. So let's start with Tails. Tails, for some reason, has the most amount of content. And before you celebrate that, that means he gets additional suffering. Poor Tails. The level each survivor starts at is Hidden Palace Zone, and Tails' level involves him bouncing around. Look at me go! Whee! Now, I got a bit of PTSD and was waiting for a death wall to spawn before reaching the Master Emerald, but much to my surprise, it never happened. The Master Emerald takes Tails back to the tornado, and it's here the black ring comes into effect. If you don't have the black ring, yeah. If you do, we're taken to the next part. Whoa, this game looks really different now. Okay, I know that's an obvious joke, but I love Silent Hill 2 and wanted to fit that in, so. Now, the first part of this level is pretty easy. Nothing too bad happens. Oh, wait, never mind. Tails is gone now? That's right, I somehow bugged the game and made Tails go invisible. Not sure how that happened, but I thought it was pretty silly. After you hit this little dash pad, things really pick up. You have this ring here that represents your lives. You're gonna get hit 5 times before you run out, but you could treat it as a one-hit KO because this guy doesn't let you breathe. How do you even see me? I'm invisible. Oh yeah, I should probably mention this here. These game over screens are pretty cool. If you're trying to get a solo ending and you don't want to skip around, just let this timer hit 0 and you can move on to the next character. I don't see these used too often, and it was actually pretty refreshing to see. So I just thought that was something unique. Back to complaining. You have to map out this area perfectly, and a single mistake can cost you a life. Jump into a red ring, and you're teleported to another place with, oh, hi other evil Tails. So I think this is the part where the game references the game's inspiration, and one that I've covered in the past, as mentioned before. If you're interested in learning more about this guy, you could watch that video on Nightmare Beginnings. Basically, Exesh here is checking up on the progress of Iseller. Now, this is a crossover, but I don't think that this is canon in some way and was just kind of like, oh, this is pretty cool. And I will say, it's neat to see the inspiration of this game appear. After a brief interaction, Iseller confronts Tails directly, and it's time for one last battle. This phase of the boss fight is a little annoying. It's actually not as hard as some of the other levels in this game. At first, it can be overwhelming, but you can get rings so you could survive longer. It also doesn't take very long to learn his attack patterns. After surviving this portion of the boss, this dude takes a page out of Metal Sonic's book and becomes a giant robot. Eggman and Knuckles are here to try to kill you as well. But I found this part to be relatively easy. Just give the guy a few aggressive head pats and you did it. I actually didn't mind this boss fight, and I really like how unique it was. It seemed entirely fair, and you can learn his move patterns along with having rings, so it wasn't just instant death. Very cool game. Upon beating him, you casually cut off his head. Oh my god. But this wasn't the true struggle. The struggle truly begins with the emotional trauma. Yeah, who's gonna tell him that that wasn't actually the real Iseller and it was just a clone? Yeah, you know what? On second thought, I think he's been through enough. And with that, that's Tails' portion down. I know I've complained a lot. So far, this game is oddly addictive. Most people call this masochism, I call it testing my body's limits. We're also treated to some pretty nice sprite animation, and I still think this holds up to this day. As we say goodbye to these visuals, we say hello to my nightmare. Knuckles is up next for the solo ending route, picking up from his hidden palace zone. Once again, no threat here, and it was kind of fun to explore and look at what the game did. Upon reaching the Master Emerald, we're taken to Hydro City. In Hydro City, we're meant to traverse the waters, and man, does this get difficult. The beginning parts of this level aren't too bad, but when this giant geyser starts to chase you, it gets really annoying to navigate. And I'm really holding back here because my reaction to beating this level is, well. All right, part 2, here we go. Wait! Yes! We did it! Oh my god, yes! Look, this part took me over 3 hours, and if you played this level, you'd understand. If you made the slightest mistake, you would die. And there would be some points where I'd try to time my iframes to not take damage. There were a few bugs I experienced while playing this level, like getting stuck in a wall and not being able to progress. The up and down movements felt pretty stiff, and you have to know the layout in order to win. To its credit, I do like that there are pathways you could choose from, and to see something unique like this is really cool. But the unfairness just got to me at times. And you could take other routes, but it really felt like there were some routes that were just way easier than others. That being said, I am glad to say I am done with this level, but the music choice was pretty good. Knuckles looks off in the distance, and we get another really good sprite animation. To this game's credit, I do feel like these levels are somewhat short, but very painful. So not too long of a level, but you have to be able to map it out. It's still going to take you a lot of time, even if the level itself isn't very long. And Eggman is the perfect example of this. I streamed most of my runs on both Twitch and YouTube, by the way, and had the most crash outs I've ever had playing any game ever. And this bald-headed idiot was mostly the cause for it. We're taking the Sky Base where, thankfully, you have infinite lives. Now, you may not start out with that, but if you run backwards, you can get a free life, and this spawns back every time you die. So you can try this as many times as needed, and trust me, you will need it. Now, for most people, I don't see this being too difficult. As I have said many times before, I am a huge skill issue, and these jetpack controls were so jank to me. At times, I feel like it wouldn't be fully responsive, or it just wouldn't work. There were also a few bugs along the way, and some of this level design is so unforgiving. I think that might be the word of the day. Falling platforms, a heat-seeking EXE, and my sanity depleting once again after I had just gotten it back. After some persistence and memorizing the layout, I made it to the end. But there's one more part to Eggman's level, and I gotta say, Visually, this looks awesome. Here we face off against the seller in one last battle. And it's okay. I didn't find it nearly as hard as his other levels, and I consider this to be the easiest level in the game. Sure, I died a few times, but once you find out you can kind of cheese this level, it's pretty alright. Also, I'm fairly certain this boss fight is scripted, and shooting doesn't really do much here, but I'm not completely sure on that. After beating a seller, we're treated to the same screen as the others, and once again, sprite work is great. I felt pretty good after beating all of the solo endings, knowing that each survivor has overcome the impossible. They rose to face a challenge that seemed hopeless, and that maybe there's a multiverse where each of them survive, and they create— oh wait, never mind. They're killed off screen. Well, I guess we'll just have to move on to the duo endings. Maybe we'll have better luck there. I heard people say these were easier to get than the other endings. And to be honest, it was all difficult to me. There was never that one moment where I was like, oh, this is easier than some of the other ones in terms of endings and not levels. Let's just start with Tails and Knuckles. Their level takes place in Mecha Green Hill Zone. What an obscure level from Sonic the Hedgehog Chaos for the Game Gear. I don't know why I said it like that, but I'm sticking with it. Knuckles brings us here because he wants to get a Chaos Emerald, and it's here we're introduced to the new mechanic. You have to switch between Tails and Knuckles to activate things. This level mostly just introduces you to how the mechanic works, but it does have its problems. There's a weird glitch that happens when you switch mid-air as Tails to Knuckles. You can keep flying as Knuckles as if you were Tails, and it's actually kind of fun, but can be detrimental at times. The next part is where things really kick up, as we're met with the seller hanging out by a tree, you know, being all casual, looking pretty cool. Not really. Basically, he pulls out this stupid red ring that makes you hallucinate. Knuckles dodges it, and Tails takes the hit this time. And this is where the main mechanic is active. Tails is now being chased down, and you have to switch between the two. Knuckles' purpose is to break through walls, and honestly, that's pretty much it. And switching to Tails allows you to see where that pesky hedgehog is. I definitely had some trouble here, as this is absolutely ruthless. It took me finding the perfect precision and speed to juke this guy, but luckily the level is pretty short. It still took me about like 2 hours or more, and it did drive me crazy, but it was kind of cool to see a custom-made stage with unique mechanics. Now, if you die here and you have the black ring, you continue from their solo path. More specifically, Knuckles continues. But if you don't have the black ring, they just kind of die. This is a cool inclusion as it gives you more chances to survive with at least one person. So I gotta give the game that. But what happens when you do survive? Well, Sonic.EXE is about to get our protagonist, but luckily, Sonic is here to fight off a seller. Or, you know, so it seems. You have a choice to save Sonic or leave, and usually I'd pick the other option first. I think we already know what happens when we pick Sonic. And to be quite frank with you, I'm tired. So Sonic, too little, too late, pal. But I'm sure you'll pull through. We then cut to Tails and Knuckles reaching the cliffside, with their animated sprites now together. This ending was annoying to get. I might sound like a broken record saying this. Sonic.EXE games, it didn't really do this. And while I've never worked on a game, I can imagine game design isn't easy, especially for one person. I do think that this stuff was intentional and that it was meant to be hard. And maybe Dan the Patient Bear had a sense of humor. I mean, clearly he does. But I still have to give props where the game deserves it. Now, let's move on to Tails and Eggman. The story here is Eggman is trying to get access to a machine, and it's up to Tails to find it. It tells him that he will activate a blue light above a door, and that will lead us to where we need to go. But when we get there, he states he said orange. So either he's gaslighting, or that wasn't really Robotnik. We don't have much time to question it, as the lights are cut out for Tails, and Robotnik's room is filled with gas. Wait a minute, is this what it means to gaslight? It makes sense why the gas filled up the room with Eggman in it. Okay, bad joke. It's here you can make a choice. Either open the ventilation or don't open it. You would think that opening it is the right choice, you know, free out all the air. That's exactly what this game wants you to think. Kind of crazy that you could just die here for picking the logical option, But to be fair, this game does have safeguards to prevent this. If you choose to not open the ventilation, the gameplay for this begins. And it's very similar to Five Nights at Freddy's. Basically, you have to make it to the end of the hallway as Tails, and Eggman is watching the cameras. So I'm guessing that means Tails is Foxy here, and Eggman is checking the cameras. Eggman will tell Tails when a seller is teleporting, and it's up to you to determine when to go and when not to by switching between the two characters. Well, I feel like this could have been executed better. I kind of like this idea. It did take me a few tries when playing, but this was one of the easiest levels in the game, in my opinion. Just get a feel for when he moves and you'll beat it in no time. Tails meets up with Robotnik again, and Robotnik basically says, yeah, so we should probably just go because I don't have anything to beat him. Wow. This is a genius, by the way, guys. Way to waste our time, dude. They go to the sunset on the cliff, talk about wanting to save the blue blur, and that is their ending. This was kind of refreshing to me, as I feel like this was pretty fair. This feeling, however, wouldn't last long as we go into the Knuckles and Eggman segment. Basically, Eggman tries to trick Knuckles and flies away, almost gets his shit rocked, and now they both have to fight Iseller and Tails. I would show the Eggman portion of this, but admittedly, the game would crash every time I died, so I was able to just get Knuckles' portion. But to my understanding, Tails would fly into these little energy balls, and you'd have to do it enough times before switching to Knuckles' portion, and that's pretty much that. And for Knuckles, you have to stand in these rings when a seller shoots these little energy balls at you. They reflect back to him, and you'll have to do this until he reaches the end of the stage. At first, this isn't that bad, but this can get pretty annoying. You have this guy slowly chasing after you, speeding up when a seller gets hit. So you have to dodge projectiles, dodge the floating clone, and try to manage your ring. And in my opinion, this is the hardest duo ending to get for that reason. I did eventually get the hang of it and developed my own strategy to beat it. After beating this guy, this level doesn't end just yet, as we have to do some platforming as Knuckles in Spring Yard Zone. It's pretty easy to do. I mean, you can die here, but just follow your instincts and I promise you'll make it to the end. This part of the ending I actually didn't mind, but man, the boss fight was annoying. We make it to the end and Robotnik is like, wow, Knuckles, you're a nice guy or whatever. And then Knuckles is like, thanks. Now let's save the world. Then they get killed off screen and that's all the duo endings. Okay, not nearly as bad as some of the other endings in this game, but some were still annoying to do. Yes, I use level select for most of this, but to be honest, I wanted to save myself time and be able to make a video on it for you guys. That's not to say I didn't have multiple attempts on how you were supposed to play this game. I truly did, but decided to stick with the level select so I can cover as much ground as possible, and I still did beat the levels, so I'm not a complete fraud, okay guys? That being said, we do have one ending to cover. And it's one I know people were waiting for. The true ending. If you're able to survive the brutal nature of this game with all three characters, you're treated to a special part of this game. The Master Emerald takes the three of them to Sky Sanctuary, where they try to come up with a plan. They take a solid 30 seconds before realizing that a seller was listening to them this whole time. Somehow, he's able to feel what happens around all of Mobius and decides that he's going to try to kill one of them. So he hunts down each of them one at a time, starting with Robotnik. In this part of the boss fight, you have to make our bloody-eyed buddy run into pillars as we casually float through the sky. He gets faster the more damage he takes, and it's up to you to make him slam into pillars and avoid him. If he touches you once, you will die, but luckily, it's not too hard to avoid him. Yes, his hitbox is, freaking massive, and the controls of Eggman are a little weird, but you just hang around the corners, fly around at the right time, and boom! Though, he does get a little salty when he smashes into enough pillars, and he's like, man, I'm mad, and does a little spin and goes to find Knuckles. I feel like he could have had more effective ways of just ending Eggman here, but you know what? I'm not complaining. Knuckles' portion is a little bit more tricky though. But I mean, that is until you realize there's a way to cheese it. Look, if this game's gonna cheat, I'm gonna cheat. There's this orb you have to grab that sends the laser to deal damage to Sonic. And in response, he'll send this big laser area thingy to hit you. You could fly over to another platform. Or you can climb up this thing in the middle and avoid it by climbing. If you're not fast enough, it doesn't always work, but that's pretty much what I did. And after fighting this boss for a while, he will start shooting lasers. So naturally, I climbed to the top to see if I could dodge the lasers that way. And much to my surprise, dear viewer, they couldn't reach me. So I ended up just repeating this until I beat them. There is this stuff that fills up the bottom of the screen, then goes back down. So you just gotta watch out for that and time your approaches. Though Sonic.EXE doesn't like that you're trying to cheese this boss fight, so he uses his insane speed and grabs Knuckles. There isn't much time before Sonic will end his life, and Tails comes in to save him. Tails asks for one of Robotnik's robots to fly into battle, and I'm a little confused by this because just a second ago, Robotnik was able to fly in the air without a robot, and I know his jetpack is broken, so it couldn't have been that unless he fixed it beforehand. But Tails can actually fly, and he didn't think of that, like, at all? I mean, he does get tired, sure, but you know what? Whatever. This is the hardest part of the boss fight and can get really difficult really fast. Before I jump into that, it's worth mentioning that if someone dies during the final boss, the others join them in some way. Robotnik will basically say, hey, you think I'm going to suffer alone? Then he evaporates them with some sort of beam, killing them both instantly. We then see a seller taunting us on how he will kill them off screen in each ending and to try our luck to get the best ending. Well, okay, pal, maybe I will. You have to hit a seller on the forehead enough times to beat him. The more you hit him, the more stuff he throws at you. I do like that there are rings placed around here, but you have to position yourself just right to actually hit him. And sometimes the badniks won't even track your movement, so you get caught floating in the air. Now for me, I usually got hit while doing this, so it sent me in the right direction and I didn't have too much trouble with it, but it was still a thing that happened. Do enough damage and you start to get this clone slowly chasing after you, along with some magic walls and projectiles constantly being spammed at you. It's so easy to get hit with 10 different things and lose here. I caught on and was able to finally beat him. But the game wouldn't just let you win easily, as we're met with one final choice. Everyone tries to run away, but a seller chases after them, falling to the floor. It appears that Sonic has stopped him momentarily, or, again, that's what it seems. You can either choose to help Sonic or escape without him. Okay, look, here's the thing, Sonic. I would love to help you, except I wouldn't. This game has put me through hell, and quite frankly, I believe you could do this on your own. Good luck, buddy! Leaving their blue buddy behind, the three of them escape, and we're brought to the cliffside we've seen many times before. The three of them try to figure out what to do, but look towards the future and hope they can find a way to combat this monster. We see all three of them together with their animated sprites, and man, this felt good. Sure, I didn't do it the right way, but I still sunk a lot of time and effort into this game. But there's still a little bit left, however. The ending screen congratulates you on winning, but shows us something I know I won't be able to escape. Cream and Amy are out looking for cheese. Cream's friend, not the, actual cheese. That'd be pretty funny, though. They decide to split up, and as they do this, my best friend starts to fly down and say the iconic line,
Ready for round 2.
I will never be free. But that sounds like a problem for another day. Spirits of Hell has done a lot for the community and has inspired a lot of other Sonic.EXE games or EXE games in general. It had unique concepts and ideas, new mechanics, and a way to save everyone. And that was really cool to see. It also introduced voice acting along with a story that wasn't just, ooh, I'm Sonic.EXE and I'm gonna get ya. This game is still heavily flawed, but there were certain points I actually enjoyed. Despite all of my complaining, I could tell a lot of passion and thought went into making this game, and for that reason, I have to respect it. This really dared to try to do something different, and I think it brought in a lot of new people to the community. Also, a quick shout out to both Dakota and Sim for making the thumbnail. Links for them will be down in the description below. They did an amazing job, and this is what I believe to be my first technical drawn thumbnail for a video. If you want to try this game out for yourself, the link will be down below. For now, I'll leave you. Subscribe for my pain, and remember, stay freaky.